Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to when you want us to take sources, really peel back the layers, and find those surprising nuggets of knowledge. Today, we are diving into a piece of upcoming tech. It's generating a bit of buzz online, the Tecno Pop 11. Okay, so let's unpack this one. We've got this product listing here. It's from my Fusion Mobile, and it gives us a fascinating peek at what might be coming down the line. Our mission today, cut through the noise, pinpoint the key specs and see if we can uncover any really interesting insights or maybe even some contradictions hidden in the data.
Indeed. And this source, it's a unique challenge, actually, because it's presenting info on an upcoming phone. So you get these high-level summaries, but then also these incredibly detailed specifications. And that often leads to some fascinating spots for a bit of critical examination.
Exactly. And that's sort of the value here for this deep dive, isn't it? It's not just about listing features. It's about really scrutinizing the data we're actually given. So for you, the curious learner listening in, this is all about giving you that quick, thorough overview, but, with some memorable details that hopefully stick. And as we dig in, we do uncover some unexpected things. Because while we're looking at what you might expect from a Tecno Pop 11, well, the source material itself throws up some surprising details, even a few internal contradictions that we're definitely going to highlight. Right, let's kick things off. The immediate big picture. Our source, it clearly states the Tecno Pop 11 is upcoming. Also, not announced yet. So yeah, it's officially in that coming soon status. And for our listeners over in India, the source points to an anticipated price, around 11,000 Indian rupees. But it does note, this price may be more or less, probably depends on the specific variants, right?
That tells us it's still really early days, preliminary phase stuff. So these specs are likely, provisional. But we do get an idea of where it sits in the market. The source also mentions that in India, you can pick it up from an official dealer point, and you can pay using EMI, that's equated monthly installments, makes it easier to buy, or just, cash.
Okay, diving into the software. The Tecno Pop 11. It's apparently slated to run on Android 14.
Right, the latest version. And powering it is the MediaTek Dimensity 6020. It's a 7-nanometer chipset. Now, that 7-millimeter process, that usually hints at pretty good power efficiency. It's a solid mid-range chip. So think smooth daily tasks, browsing, social media, maybe even some more demanding apps without too much lag.
All right, now this next bit. This really throws a curveball when it comes to RAM. The initial summary says 12 GB RAM Dimensity 6020. Okay?
Yeah.
But then later, you dig into the detailed memory section, and it specifies 8 gigabytes of RAM with 128 gigabytes of storage and a dedicated micro SD card slot for expansion. So from your experience, how common is that kind of big difference, and what does it usually mean at this early stage?
Oh, that's a great question. And yeah, it's surprisingly common, actually. What's really insightful here, I think, is that these conflicting numbers aren't just minor typos. They really highlight how dynamic, sometimes even speculative, this pre-release data can be. It often points to maybe evolving specs, maybe different versions for different regions, or maybe just placeholder data that someone forgot to update. So for you, the learner, it just means exercise caution. Understand that even, reputable sources can reflect a moving target, not necessarily the final specs. It's a key lesson, really. Discerning early buzz from, solid fact.
Good point. Okay, shifting to the visuals then. The display is an IPS LCD. It measures 6.78 inches. Resolution is listed as 1080 by 2388 pixels. But wait, didn't the initial summary say something else? Yeah.
Here it is.
The summary said 6.67 inches with 2020 by 2712 pixels. So again, two different figures from the same source.
Right. And then when you look at the build, it's described as, pretty robust, actually. Glass front, Gorilla Glass Victus Plus. Glass back, Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, and an aluminum frame. Now, Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, that's top-tier stuff. Industry-leading toughness you usually find on premium phones. It also mentions an IP53 rating, so dust and splash resistant, which is, a decent durability feature for everyday life. Weight is 192 grams.
Okay, but the next detail in the build description, this really made me pause. Read it again, actually. Our source describes the build as having, quote, glass front, Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, folded, plastic front, unfolded. Unfolded.
Yeah.
For a phone called the Tecno Pop 11, which, that series is usually budget-friendly, definitely not foldable, and putting premium Gorilla Glass Victus Plus on both sides of something potentially foldable in the Pop line, that's incredibly surprising. Feels like finding, a V8 engine in a scooter.
Yeah, that definitely raises a big question, doesn't it? Could this actually mean the Pop 11 is some kind of budget foldable? That would be a massive shift for Tecno's Pop series, a huge deal. Or And this feels maybe more likely. Is this just a weird mix-up in the source data? Like specs maybe accidentally pulled from some other high-end Tecno foldable device and just dropped into this listing by mistake. It definitely makes you think critically about these specs and, frankly, about the source's data integrity itself.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to capturing life. The cameras, it looks intriguing. A triple main camera setup. It lists 50 MP, then 13 MP, and then another 50 MP sensor. Includes features like dual LED, dual tone flash, HDR, panorama. Video recording apparently maxes out at 1440p at 30 fps.
And the selfie camera stands out too, actually. It's a single 20 MP sensor. Supports panorama. And impressively, it says it can record 4K at 30 fps and 1080p at 30 fps video with gyro ES. That's electronic image stabilization. So if you connect that to the bigger picture, yeah, having high-res main sensors and a 4K capable selfie cam, that's a pretty strong package for multimedia folks, people who really value video quality.
Okay, connectivity. What keeps this thing talking? It supports Wi-Fi 802.11 ADMI-X6. That's Wi-Fi 6, which means, faster, more stable connections, especially if you're in a crowded Wi-Fi area. Good for streaming, gaming on the go. Also has Bluetooth 5.1 comprehensive GPS lists, dual-band AGPS, GLONASS, BDS, Galileo, and NFC, uses USB Type-C 3.0. But the source notes no FM radio and no infrared port.
And regarding network speeds, the detailed section lists 2G, 3G, and 4G network LTE speeds up to LTE. But notably, the 5G network field, it's explicitly left blank in that detailed breakdown, which, well, strongly suggests it might not support 5G. And that's definitely an important thing for many users to consider these days.
Right, definitely. Okay, shifting gears, staying power. Let's look at the battery. And surprise, surprise, our source gives us two figures again. The initial summary states 4,400 mAh LiPo. But then the detailed battery section lists a Li-ion type with a capacity of 4,300 mAh. Charging is listed simply as 15W wired.
Yeah, look, while those are slight discrepancies, 4,400 versus 4,300, LiPo versus Li-ion, they both suggest a pretty respectable battery size for daily use, should get you through the day, and 15W wired charging. It's pretty standard for this kind of segment, offers a decent top-up speed, nothing amazing, but fine.
Okay, now for maybe one of the most head-scratching parts of this whole listing, the hour rating section. Despite the phone being upcoming, not announced yet, our experts, it says, have given the Tecno Pop 11 an overall rating of 9/10. And not just overall. This consistent 9/10 rating applies across every single category: design, display, camera, features, connectivity, usability, performance, and battery. A flat 9 out of 10 everywhere.
Yeah. What's truly fascinating there, isn't it, is how an unreleased product gets such definitive and frankly high ratings from experts. I mean, this isn't presented as user reviews or speculation. It's framed as an expert evaluation. It really makes you wonder, what's the basis for that assessment? Are they using leaked benchmarks, comparing it to older Technopop models? Or is it just projection? Maybe even a bit of a marketing tool for a publication to rate something so highly across the board when it isn't even finalized.
Yeah, it definitely reinforces that idea that even factual listings can involve, well, projection or speculation, especially for unannounced stuff. It really highlights the kind of critical thinking you need when you're looking at any pre-launch information.
So let's try and wrap this up. What does this all mean? We've taken this deep dive into the Tecno Pop 11. We've found a device with, on paper, some promising features. Android 14, that capable MediaTek chip, a versatile sounding triple camera, 4K selfie video, decent connectivity. But maybe even more importantly, we've seen how just one single source can contain these really intriguing contradictions. Conflicting RAM figures, slightly different battery specs, and then that truly surprising description of a folded-unfolded build with premium glass on a phone in the Pop series, all for a device that isn't even out yet, and topped off with that pre-launch 9 out of 10 expert rating across the board.
Exactly. This deep dive, it really shows how understanding things, applying knowledge, isn't just about absorbing facts. It requires critically examining the source itself, recognizing these nuances, these potential inconsistencies, even what looks like a straightforward product listing that lets you form a much more complete and probably more accurate picture.
So for you, our listener, considering these internal contradictions and that very high expert rating for a phone that's not even announced, what does this deep dive tell you about how you should approach and evaluate this kind of early information about upcoming tech? How much can you really infer from pre-launch specs like these? Keep that critical lens sharp and keep diving deep.